Welcome to Story Deep Dive with Dana and Rachel. This is a podcast with book coaches and editors who are also besties. We discuss books not as readers, but as writers so that we can draw inspiration from great books and lots of laughs. And this month, we are reading Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. And Rachel is over here doing her Vanna White thing. I don't understand how we even got here.
Sometimes when you're doing the intro, I'll just, cause like I know, okay, this is where maybe I'm playing a dangerous game, right? I know that it only puts me on camera when I'm talking, right? Like it switches when we're talking. So while you're talking, I will just add animated gestures to whatever you're saying of like, we are two editors, book coaches, and besties, and I'll just like animate whatever you're saying with hand gestures and facial expressions. Cause I'm like, haha, the camera's not gonna see, like, it's not gonna be like recorded.
I need Riverside to get on their job and get her. Just get her. Get her and don't even like, but see, you edit, so you would just totally know that it got you.
I have a lot of power here.
So with that said, before we talk about Rachel's power, we are going to dive into our overview of Spinning Silver, which is a Rachel pick. But before we do that, Rachel, go ahead and let us know what you got going on over there over at StoryCypher.
Yes, ma'am. So speaking of Rachel and life over at StoryCypher, so this month in the Academy, we have crossed the threshold past the first draft. And this is one of my biggest goals in the Academy. Like the first 3 months are really about getting people over this hurdle, right? Like this is the hurdle that I find trips people up more than anything. Because once you get past the first draft, you're like, oh, like you can see the story more clearly, and you're able to like, oh, of course, like a lot of times, like, you know, I'm not going to say like, I say this to my clients all the time. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easier, or like it gets right. Like, cause the work is never like, I think easy is undermining the work a little too much, but there's like all of a sudden, right? You look at like that plot hole that maybe, or that thing in your outline that you're like, oh, like I don't like this, or like I can't quite solve this problem. You get through your first draft and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is obviously what I should do with that. And like, oh, clearly like my character should be doing this thing. And like all of the things that you agonized over, you write that first draft. And again, for those of us who are especially perfectionists, but first drafts are hard for everyone. I read a quote from Khalid Hosseini, who wrote The Kite Runner. And he literally says, he's like, I hate doing first drafts. I know it's going to be lousy. Like, and this man is like accomplished writers are like, my first draft sucks and I hate it every time. And so I'm always like telling my writers, like, if Khalid Hosseini's first draft can suck, yours is allowed to too. Like you have permission here, right? To get over that hurdle, because it's the one that I find that trips people up the most. If you can get past the first draft, all of a sudden the amount of clarity you can see your story with, and the amount that you just understand about it from having engaged it on the ground, is like night and day different. But that first draft is the hurdle that will trip people up from getting to that point. And so so when we get to this month, I'm like, okay, you made it, right? Like you made it past the first draft. This is the major hurdle. And now we can start shaping that story, and all of those things that your heart was like, oh, I want to fix that. I want to do this. And I want to, like all the things that you want to do, all of a sudden, like now those are on the table, and the things that you like really want the story to be, like it's so much easier to shape it into those things. And so I love getting to this part, because like there's such a relief that comes with finishing the first draft, but it's also where you get really deep into the story and into shaping it and really, really crafting it, like at that the level that, again, my students, that's what they've been wanting to do the whole time. And so we're finally here this month. And so it's developed. I built it so that it's got a little bit of margin built in. So it's like, if your first draft isn't finished, like you're not going to get hurt. Like if it takes you an extra week into this module, like to wrap up, that everything can be done. Like, if you give it a couple of good weekends, you could do everything in this module and be ready for your second draft, so that there's just those nice buffers built in, because life is life and it does life things. And we need that in the process to be like, okay, I don't have to go at breakneck speeds the entire time. So this is that month for us. It's where we look back on our first draft and we develop the areas that still need development, and we shore up all of our outline and all of the things that we discovered in our first draft, and start preparing to apply that in our second draft, which we start on in the following month. So this is that golden moment, right? When we pass the threshold of, you made it through the first draft, you did it. This is the hardest part. There's plenty of hard work to be done, but like this is the part where most people lose the process. You can make it through this. And so when we get to this month, you've made it through that. And I love this part of the program. It's so good. So that's what we're doing this month in the Academy. And I'm always excited to share that with my students, because it's the part that they like love, right? So it's good. This is a great time in the program. And I'm really excited for my students, and our alumni are still just rocking and rolling, cranking out pages, cranking out words, doing awesome. So it's been a real pleasure to run the cohort again and have the alumni alongside them in the process, and get to share their wisdom with the students and their genuine strategies, right, that they used to solve the problems that the students are going through right now. So at the end of every lecture, I ask our alums, I'm like, okay, if you could go back 6 months in time and talk to yourself at this stage in the program, right, back 6 months ago when you were in this position, what would you tell yourself, right? And having that, to be able to actually give that to the students who are currently going through it, so that they can take those nuggets and like internalize them and utilize that, both that encouragement and that strategy as well. And so, right, the more the program goes, the more people you get to pull to share in that experience. Oh, it's just, it's why writing, right? It's why writing with friends is so fun and so special. So, anyway, that's what we got going on. So Dana, what's going on over at Danja Tales? What you got going on?
Well, before I say that, I think that is so good. I was recently doing a YouTube video, and I was talking about how a lot of times the reason why people quit, you don't realize that in your mind you sort of painted this picture of your writing experience, and it usually doesn't look like what it takes to finish a first draft.
Mm-hmm.
You're usually thinking about what your students are about to go through during the second draft.
100%. Oh my gosh.
Right? You are thinking about, you're diving in, you're doing all this stuff, but you can't do any of that without a draft being done. And so what happens is we sort of like romanticize the writing process, but the part that you're romanticizing is your future drafts, not the first one. And the reason why is because you don't think about staring at a blank page. You don't think about stringing individual words and sentences and paragraphs. Like, you are not thinking about how much it takes to get it sort of from your brain onto the page. And that's the part that's where it makes it such the biggest hurdle. And it's one of the biggest accomplishments, especially your very first time. So I'm so excited for them. I'm excited and proud of you, and I'm excited for them because it's like once you do it, it's like you can just keep going, because now because the moment you finish it and you have written the end, you know that you are absolutely capable of doing it. Yeah. And after that, it's like, it's gravy, baby.
Yeah. And this has become like the hill that I will die on, which is that multiple drafts like matter, right? Like, they do. Like understanding that you will work in multiple drafts, and that is not just okay, but fully standard to the process, is like that I'm always reiterating that. And like, if I got a new writer and I'm like, okay, you need to understand something, my friend, like we need to get this out on the table. We need to get it out now so that the picture in your mind can start to slowly acclimate and line up with the reality that's gonna hit. Because like, you're not just gonna be like, write a first draft and then it's like, ta-da, like it's ready, it's done.
Happening.
Everybody writes in multiple drafts, and when you can set that expectation, it's still, the first draft still sucks to write, it still is hard, but at least you're not thinking, oh, this should be one and done. No, it's not. It won't. And again, it's like, and I always point to the really prolific professionals, right, of like, if they are writing multiple drafts, you can write multiple, like it's not, you're not writing multiple drafts because you've done something wrong. This is like how the process works and how we refine the story. This is par for the course. It is okay.
And that's, I mean, honestly, exactly what I'm talking about. The other part of that is also realizing that you don't want it to be just one draft, because your best stuff is going to come when you already have the stuff that's bumping around in your head out. Because then you really can start shaping and molding. So yes, I'm excited for them, and I'm excited for you. And the more people that it can normalize that experience, and it gives them the courage to keep going and keep writing and finish that draft and go to the next one. And kind of normalize that process. I know I was talking to a student the other day, and she was like, wait, how many drafts? I was like, I each manuscript 4 to 6 drafts easily.
Oh yeah.
Period. And I was like, and I'm triple digits into how many stories I've written, and I still, and I do detailed outlines and first drafts still, baby, first drafts and first act. Listen, they just look, remind me, baby, it's a humbling. It's a humbling. No matter how much I know, how much I prep, no matter what method I use to write, like it just, and I've learned that it just is what it is. The faster you get it done, the faster you get over that feeling. You just got to get it done. So yes, yay. Well, I'm not going to talk about what's going on in Danja Tells. Y'all, we are still doing what we do. We are writing. We are doing the things, but we are minding our business. We are drinking our water. We're getting our stories done. You know what I'm saying?
Good. Drinking our water, getting our stories done. That's the goal.
Girl, I would say we're getting sleep, but being that we wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, baby, half of the people we were talking about, they were taking a nap. So when we finish with the sprints, I'm like, y'all quit telling me about these naps, because I got to keep working. But what I will say, when this is going up, it's going to be my birthday weekend.
Yes, ma'am. Wait, yeah.
Yes.
You're so right. Yeah, because this is our, birthday weekend. What's up? Okay, have we solidified plans?
First of all, I don't really have any plans. So we...
Excellent. It's gonna be my birthday. There's nothing on the docket. That's my announcement.
but that might be the flex. That might be the flex. So I'm thinking, because the time of recording, I got a couple weeks. You know, I'll be doing my little retreats. And I realized I've done them for the past 2 years. I think this year, I'm gonna do like a 4-day retreat to finish my big butterfly quilt.
Yay! Oh, that's exciting.
I was like, but I'm real nervous because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that in 4. I would need probably all 4 days, because I know it's probably going to take a good 40 plus hours.
If you started working on it like the weekend prior, would that, like, if you got like a little bit of a leg up, if you like started
it's already started. It's the way that it's done. It's okay. Paper pieced. So, but what I'm thinking is, it's sort of like when you start working and it's just better to keep working than to stop and start and stop and start, like, over time. I think that is what could happen. That if I just like start, I'm thinking of doing it like when I used to go to a retreat we would start on Wednesday evening and then have Thursday and Friday and Saturday and half a Sunday. And that's what I normally do. And then my family, usually they sponsor a day of meals. And so I have them do that. Girl, I be closing myself in there. Girl, I'm invisible. Girl, I'm invisible to everybody, dogs and everybody. Okay. And so I think I am. I think, girl, and then I'm going to have my audiobooks lined up.
Do we know what's on the list for what you're going to listen to?
I think so. Okay, so, well, we already have our stuff done, but I want to finish the Demigods of San Francisco. I really would like to. I'm on book 4 right now.
Yeah.
I've bought the second book in the Fourth Wing. I can't remember what it's called. I bought the book 2 of that one, and I don't know if I want to do that one quite yet, but I do have that one already purchased. And then I have this other series, I can't remember what it's called, where I bought all of them because we started book 1 in our book club, which is a Western romance that I really liked. I really, really liked it. So I have the other ones in that series. And the final thing I've been reading is some cozies with Black protagonists. So listen, my Audible app is always on fire. I'm never... But when I do that, I like to start a series and finish a series. Last time I did J.T. Geisinger's Slow Burn series. I can't remember what it's called. I did I think it was 3 or 4 of the books. So I love when I can do that, when I can finish something, because I'm going back to back and they're already just lined up. Yeah. So... That's
a great way to get to read a series where you can just go plowing straight through it. Oof.
Girl.
It's good. When you can get that kind of time and set it aside. Ooh.
Hyped up on hot tamales, Dr. Pepper, and pizza.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Because that's when you go on break, right? You're no, I am
break.
Whatever I want is what
it's
we're
all
doing.
There. And listen,
that's all there is to
baby,
it.
they do baskets, gift cards. My husband will go get it. I don't have to move. Y'all, it goes down, okay?
I will never, never, never forget.
Oh, no.
When for the listener, for the watcher, for my birthday, we got together, Dana and myself and some of our other editor friends, they came to Kentucky to celebrate my 30th birthday with me a few years ago, which was one of the most special birthday events I've probably had in my entire life. And so we went out and got some groceries to fill for stuff to eat for the week. And and the thing is they got groceries Trevor and I get groceries when we go on vacation because we still cook, we still want to eat vegetables. We are so they got meats and cheeses, they got salad mix, and Dana shows up because Dana was the last one to arrive.
I was the last one to get there. Listen,
and
this is what
she
happens.
rolled in and she was like, Where's the vacation food? What do we have? Meat and cheese platters and
no waxy snacks. We got kale. We have
kale. There are no zebra cakes, no Little Debbie, nothing, no Doritos, no soda. What? You're
what kind of Mickey Mouse operation
shenanigans is this?
It
was the funniest thing because you were this is an outrage.
Y'all thought I was playing. I'm serious. Y'all in there cooking whole meals. We got to cook whole meals on vacation? Lies from the pit of hell is what Dana said.
That memory sticks with me. Just
I can just
one of
see
my
Elizabeth in
things.
the kitchen eating kale right now. Girl, if y'all don't get it out of my face with this kale.
I'm already hiding kale in smoothies. What you gonna wave it around in my face for? How dare you?
Oh my gosh. I was are y'all... I just looked around. I felt like I was being punked. I was is this what happens? I done took the flight. I done worked all day. I had to get a car service out here to the middle of nowhere, and y'all gonna feed me kale? Lies. Send me back to Houston.
I will say, For the record, I made a mean stack of pancakes the next morning, though.
You did.
There were some bomb pancakes up in there.
Rachel did make her pancakes, but baby, that was after we had a whole kill. We had real meals. I was like, oh no, I've got to. Where is Instacart?
Yes, and you literally placed an Instacart order of like, I'm getting Doritos, I'm getting soda. Like, you just
listen. It wasn't immediately. It was immediately. Okay, I had to go get the snacks immediately. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Y'all want to stay up all night eating kale? Yeah, I love kale. Don't get it twisted. But listen, y'all done brought me all the way to Kentucky to eat a kale salad. Lies. Girl, and wait. And then the driver was like, oh, he was telling me all the stuff that he could go take me to get to eat. Then he was going to talk about, you want to go to KFC? Why would I come all the way here to eat KFC? I can eat KFC at home. Girl, KFC totally forgetting this is Kentucky. I was like, oh, okay. But no, I don't want it.
I will tell you, KFC is not better in Kentucky than anywhere else.
But they got some, and now we don't even really eat fast food. And who knows, like time has changed. But listen, at that point, I was like, y'all are fired. Fired, everybody.
Wait, but next time, like if we when we go on our Lexington trip, now, would you be like, all right, fine, I'll eat the kale? Or is it like, no, I'm packing my Doritos, I'm getting my soda, my hot tamales. Like,
I'm not eating no kale on vacation.
Okay.
The only time you gonna see me eating kale on vacation, you go to some of these conferences, and I guess that's a part of rites of passage. They gonna do a kale salad. Y'all listen, I have no
there's
problem
always
with
a kale salad.
Listen, always.
So
and here's the thing about it that makes it so bad. I love kale, but I actually don't like it really in salads if you don't know how to massage it right. Most people don't know how to massage it right. So it's too
weird
and like bitter,
dry.
And they don't remove the stick. Listen, y'all, this is not a cooking thing. However, when I do kale, I personally prefer it steamed. I love steamed kale, and I like it seasoned well. And most people don't do that. So if you're not going to do it, just leave me alone. Pass me my Doritos because I don't have them at home. Pass me my Doritos and my Dr. Pepper, and don't be looking at them after you picked kale. Now you eat your kale. You go and sit over there with your rabbit food. Listen, you have your rabbit food.
You made your cage, now lie in it.
Come on.
With your kale and your almonds.
We make sure we don't put it in the house if we don't want to eat it. That's what we do. So when we go on vacation,
it's coming with us, man.
You already know. Every time we've gone, what do? The first thing I do, order my stuff.
Instacart. Oh,
come on.
It was making me think how much I miss when we used to go to Nashville at least once a year.
No.
So we're gonna
start doing it.
I know. We're just gonna plan a trip. Doesn't have to be Nashville.
No.
But get together. Heck, we literally live within 8 hours of each other.
You say that, but we haven't done that. We need to just start saying, like, pick a certain weekend, like just the same way we do our standing appointment, and then just rotate every year. 1 year, like, or just like find somewhere in the middle, or 1 year I come there, or 1 year you come here. Like, not go to our houses, like go to a hotel and do something. Just have a good time. But yeah. And y'all, we don't be doing nothing but sitting up running our mouths. But
we literally just sit and talk, which is already what we do. But we just talk some more in person, and it's awesome.
It's so good. Falling asleep. Like, girl, are you awake? Nope. Okay. Stop talking now, Rachel, because I'm tired.
Wait. You should also know. I need everyone to know. So, because of the way that the Airbnb that we stayed in was, there weren't actually enough beds. Like, there was something, one of them had like a really bad pull-out bed or something. It's like one of those things where like technically there were enough beds, but one of them was like, you can't subject a person to sleeping on that. That's inhumane.
It was on the living room or something like that. It wasn't comfortable. That's what it was.
So Dana and I ended up sharing a room, and we slept in the same bed, and we would sit up in the bed and we would talk, and then we fell asleep watching Pride and Prejudice on Dana's laptop. These are like, I just need you guys to know that this is our life. This is what happens.
Girl, stay on your side. You stay on your side of the bed. Yo, we had so much fun, and we got a lot of work done. We had a lot. That's when did your company stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
that's where sort of like StoryCyphers like first came into like being,
yeah.
which is crazy now. 3 years later, my in 10 days, my 33rd birthday's coming up. So
And
yeah,
now
it's
look at you.
crazy. Look at me now.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Her turning 30 was just a thing.
Yeah, it was really cool. That's probably one of the best birthdays I've ever had, I think.
It was so great. We had some moments, but it was like overall great experience. We did. A moment was had by all. Okay. Oh my gosh, we did though. We did. We did have great food though, because we went to a couple of places. So yeah, so it wasn't all kale, but y'all, I was just like, what in the world?
When that's the first impression, Dana's like, whoa, hold on.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I was like, did they drag me all the way from my house
to feed me stuff I could have had at my house?
Rachel, I'm looking at Rachel like, because we've stayed together a lot. So we've stayed together a lot. So I was like, oh, heck no. I done got in there late at night. I didn't have to drive out here to the sticks. It was dark. I couldn't see nothing past the end of my nose. Y'all playing. And then I was wondering, where the black people at? Okay, because Rachel. But we did have fun. And it was a great celebration. Look at me. And it was a great celebration. So with that said, y'all, basically what we're saying is we need to put together a live event or something and just have a great time. Break bread with junk food. Oh, yeah. Like we would have some real food, but we would also have some junk food. You gotta have junk food.
If Dana ever hosts an event, you're gonna know there's gonna be some junk food there for you.
Well, here's what's so funny. Whenever I do real events, I don't have junk food.
No?
But I do have snacks. I do have rooms set up with snacks, and I usually get bags with snacks because I just think snacks and writing go together.
Yeah, that's
true. But
I
normally have real food because I love for you to feel like you have good food.
Yeah. But especially because you're like here to, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. But it is. But you don't want to be like, I'm going to do this writing. I'm going to be creatively inspired, and you feel like either hungry or like sluggish. You're like, ugh, like I'm going to be sick. Like you don't want that either.
And I like to have like a whole, like when at the place where we used to do it, like I have a whole table with all these different snacks, and I have the drinks rotating in so that they're always fresh. And then we put certain like little snacks in your personal bags. I just love that. I love that. And I love most of the time I pick places where the meals are usually like all you can eat with a variety so that it's, like not catered to one kind of eater. Because food is a huge part of an event. Yeah.
It really, that can change your experience of an event where you're like, I beg your pardon?
I know. I knew as soon as you said, I was like, oh, I know where she's going to go. Y'all, if y'all ask me, come tell me about no snacks, don't come for me. Because I was serious. I was so serious. I was like, after that long drive from that airport, in the middle of the night, I was like, listen, I did not come all this way. Y'all to be sitting up cooking real meals. I was like, oh, Lord.
Also, we were halfway through a bottle of like white wine.
I was like, listen, this is what happened when you come late.
I couldn't imagine there's already a momentum going and you're like, all right, well, this is happening. Like
stepping in the middle of something. In the middle. With that said, let's go ahead and dive in. And basically what we're saying is Rachel and I need to do something. We need to get together. We keep saying it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. So as we get ready to jump into this overview of spinning silver, Rachel's going to kick us off with her summary.
Yes, ma'am. In this Rumpelstiltskin-inspired fairy tale, Miriam is a moneylender's daughter living in a small town near Lithfuss, where stark raiders and lengthening winters threaten to bring ruin to palace and peasant alike. Her soft-hearted father refuses to collect repayment, plunging the family into poverty and forcing Miriam to take over the family business. There's nothing magical about Miriam's keen eye for business, turning silver into gold, until she catches the attention of a Staric king, and Miriam is wrapped up in a conflict of czars, demons, and Staric. Caught between two worlds and the conflict between them, Miriam must fight to protect her family, her people, and choose whether she's going to be a pawn or a queen.
So we have our summary, and we sort of already had some topics that we wanted to just kick off this discussion of spinning silver with. And you want me to just sort of go through them, and then we just, because this is Rachel's pick, but I sort of did the list. So let's just go ahead. I'll go through the list, and then we'll sort of go through them maybe.
Yeah, I think the context will be a good one to start with because it's just sort of teeing up the story itself.
Well, you do that. You do that.
Okay, so something to know about this story is that this really is like, it's a historical fantasy framed to feel like a fairy tale, right? So it has that sort of fairy tale feeling. It's, you know, it's soft magic, it's enchantment, it's thematic, but it's really, and so it has that fantasy fairy tale element to it. But it is also set against a historical backdrop. And so there's, you know, I'm pretty sure the town, you know, Lithvas, I'm pretty sure it's a fictional town. I don't know for sure. But this is really, this story is set against the Jewish experience in Eastern Europe. I would flag it probably around the 1800s to 1850s, when Jews were often, and this was happening long before the 1800s, but where they often lived in these sort of walled off quarters of the cities that they lived in. And our protagonist and her family, she's living outside of the Jewish quarter of a bigger city and in a small town where they are the only Jewish people in the entire town. And she really uses so there's this long running sort of mythos of the Jewish moneylender. And it became this very, it became this sort of like legend, almost this way that people viewed like Jews and their reputation and what a moneylender was and what they did. And this is like, she's really building the story off of this backdrop. So it's really cool because we're squarely in this kind of fantasy world, but with very clear, very well researched historical backdrop of a particular place and time in Jewish history and in Jewish experience. And so I just think that as an aspect of the story, which she handles so well, it just really adds to the layers of the story overall. But I think just kind of knowing that that's the story you're walking into, I think is quite helpful to kind of recognize we're almost in like a historical fantasy with a sort of fairy tale sort of vibe to it.
Mm-hmm. So then, I mean, you sort of touch on this sort of like that we are, I think even when you saying that can make it feel like it's, I don't want to say heavy, but that it's sort of has a whole lot of cultural aspect to it. And I think she does it just enough that you get the experience and you know how it affects the characters and the dynamics that they're in without it feeling like it's overrun with it.
Yeah. And that's what's really interesting is like she seamlessly integrates this, right? Like she doesn't, and what I love, and this is good storytelling. This is good historical fiction. This is good fantasy. She doesn't really do a lot of explaining, like just like this is how this works. Like we're just getting like pure like information, which is what makes it feel so seamless because it's just part of the world, right? Like she doesn't explain anything except when we go to the Jewish quarter in Visnia, we have to go through another gate where there are guards, and then we go in there, and then all of the people look like Miriam. Right. And that's how we understand it. So what's interesting is like, I think she really does seamlessly integrate it. As someone who like, this was my area of study, I can see all of the details and all of the like the research and like historical understanding that she pulled in that you're not like, oh, this is a historical aspect. Oh, like you're not right. It's so seamless. And like having studied it, I can see all of the details that she integrated to create that experience without it ever feeling like that's what she's necessarily doing. And so, yeah, I think it's really important to sort of like, so I nerded out. I got a little excited because it's
It's
like,
okay. It's
so seldom that
perfect.
I see this and then see it done so well.
Hmm.
But she really does do it so seamlessly that if this is not something that you have had any exposure to before, you can sink right into this story and you will not be like, I don't know the history. I'm lost. And you also won't feel like someone's going to just explain it at you and you'll be like, I'm sorry, did I open up a history textbook or is this a novel? I don't know what you want from me. But it's just, so it's very, very illuminating. Like, and it just, like it serves the whole. And so you're right. Like she just does it so well. And it just adds more layers to the story.
Hmm. I love when that happens because it just shows you how much you can do with fiction. And
Yeah.
I know in a lot of ways we know that, but when you're able to look at like stories like this, you able to look at like when we read Indigo, like
Hmm.
bringing in history to show how like what those dynamics are. And in both of those situations, it could be something that could be really almost like bring the mood and the vibe down, and that's not the intention at all, but it
Yeah.
doesn't escape the realities of the time, and
Yeah.
that's the part too. So we have that there's the Jewish culture. Another thing that we had that we wanted to just bring up was the fact that we have the world construction and thematic layering of the story. We have that this is talking about magical bargaining, marriage arrangements, political alliances, economic debts, personal sacrifices, all the while it's like happening in real time as we're engaging with these three, I'm going to say three protagonists, even though they sort of have different weight as far as their stories and the
Hmm.
overall structure. But we have those three protagonists, and we talk about it considerable, like at length as we move forward in these episodes. But the fact that she touches on all of those areas with this backdrop and
Yeah.
still sort of pulls you in and has you really engaged and rooting for these three women.
Yeah.
It's a great story. And so I would love to know, like, I know that it sort of touches on what you studied, but of like what were the other aspects that really made this something that you wanted to do as a pick, and also because I know that this is a story that you read with your clients.
Yeah. I think one of those factors definitely being that, like, just as a historical fantasy, which we haven't seen yet. It's a type of fantasy that we haven't really had on the podcast yet. And also really like digging down into that like multi POV, very like with really really deep character work.
Mhm.
That's when I point this one out to clients, it is for dealing with multiple points of view, and really if they're struggling with their characters and how to demonstrate them and how to really bring them out, this is one that I kind of will turn to, because it's like one of the, even for some of my clients where it's like, okay, this isn't necessarily like the genre you're writing in, this may not be specifically to your taste, but just read the first act. Like, just get your hands on a little bit of the book so that you can look at the scenes for the individual points of view and how those are like molded. Again, we talk extensively about
Mhm.
this exposing your characters to problems and using the problem solving to showcase who they really are,
Mhm.
without having to narrate it, right? You're showing us truly who they are and how they think. And so I will sort of recommend that, even just to get a snapshot of the mechanism at work so they can kind of picture what it looks like if that's something that they're really struggling with. And so having that historical fantasy and that really deep character work, and again, and running multiple points of view, those are some of like the really big things that sort of are why I'll recommend this to a client, and also what I kind of wanted to bring to the podcast to sort of give a little bit of variety to some of the fantasy or some of the picks that I've brought previously. Because we haven't
Mhm.
had quite as many fantasy picks. I've had several sort of like crime or crime adjacent.
Mhm.
So having a nice, rich historical fantasy, I thought was kind of a nice mix.
A change of pace. Another part of this story is the fact that it is a slow build. And I'm saying slow build, but now that I even say it, I think it's really just how I sort of see the buildup as far as laying the foundation in Act One. But after that, it really does move pretty fast, and I would attribute that to the fact that you do have multiple points of view, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's something that you'll see that we discuss in how that plays into the way that we experience the story and the way that we experience the characters. Is there anything specific that you want to say about this? Because y'all know I'll be looking for the romance. There is a slow burn kind of ish romance.
Yeah, sort of like
But
subplot.
it is a subplot, but I think the overarching sort of, I wouldn't even say overarching, like the undercurrent is about love, right? Of like, of people, of family,
Yeah.
and really of self, and
Yeah.
how each of them are really learning who they are and the lengths that they will go to have a different existence
Yeah.
within the confines of where they are, the time, the location, the gender, the
Yeah.
ethnicity, and all those sort of things combining. So I would say that it is about that, but we do find that there is a sort of a slower building as it progresses. It does get increasingly more and more. It's not boom bam pow, but it
Yeah.
does pick up considerably.
Yeah, and something that we talk about that I think this sort of like a really like that this story sort of wields really effectively is like how personal the stakes are to the individual characters and like what the stakes really mean to those characters. And that's, something that I think is such a powerful aspect of this story is the fact that when she chose three specific POVs to tell the story through, she was like very intentional about who those people were and what
Mm-hmm.
sides of the story she wanted to tell. So that, because then we are getting those thematic developments of community, family, love, belonging, self, who we're told we are and who we decide we want to be. And all of these elements, we get to see them through three very distinctive perspectives. And so our protagonist Miriam, right, she is a Jewish woman living in this town where she is apart from her own people, right? So she doesn't live in the Jewish quarter in Visnia. She lives in this random town where she's the only Jewish person, or her family, they're the only Jewish
A
people in the
family. Mm-hmm.
town. um, but then we get Wanda, who she technically would be considered in the in group as far as she is just classic townie. She's Eastern European, just right. She's like everybody else in the town, but her family is undergoing extreme financial hardship, right? And so she's kind of like in this position of poverty, but also because of the family dynamics, right? It's almost like her family doesn't have to be in poverty, but she doesn't have any control over what happens with the money. And then we get Irina, she is like from one of the noble families in Litvas, which is like the big city. And her experience is dictated by the fact that like she is not beautiful. She's a bargaining chip for an advantageous alliance, right? And so each of these women, right, they're experiencing their own version of this world, and they're so distinct from one another is the
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? Is it's like these three different women who have completely different backgrounds, whose lives get tangled up in each other's, but because of those different backgrounds, what the stakes mean to them individually are vastly different but deeply personal. And that's something that this sort of like multi POV, and like you said, once this story gets going, like it really feels like it gets going, and those stakes being very deep to the individuals and being different for the individuals, is a really phenomenal aspect of this story. And again, a great thing to look at if you have decided you're going to do like very intentional multi POV, this is a great example, at least for our three. We'll talk more about the other POVs in the coming
Mm-hmm.
episodes. But at least for these three key points of view, a great example of choosing your points of view to absolute best effect, right? To explore your themes, and to create variety. So we don't get just three different versions of like the same person, right? They are very, very different and come from very, very different angles of this world, or different sides of this world, and really using those points of view to add to the story, and not just to sort of create like ballooning, like unnecessary ballooning.
Yeah, that it really does. It adds layers, and it's the fact that they are experiencing the same or similar circumstances, but the consequences of those circumstances and how it impacts their world differs greatly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't, right? They're
Yeah.
still women. They are
Mm-hmm.
still being subjected to, the requirements of marriage, the requirements of being underneath the sort of, um, I'm thinking leadership, but of the male figure, which is the
Yeah.
father, except for, listen, Miriam was like, listen, we about to get it. We about to get
Hold
into
my
this.
beer.
Okay. This is what she said. She said, cause I'm not going to do this anymore,
Hold
but
my
we do see
Krupnik.
this. Go ahead. And what those consequences are, and her making a decision, and the decision I think our discussion even on that, I think, is going to be something that is so helpful, because a lot of times you hear, bring it to the page, show versus
Mhm.
tell. And it's like, okay, what am I bringing to the page? What am I
Yeah.
showing? And I think this is a really great example of it, especially if you are in an environment, or you're writing a story that doesn't have a lot of action,
Mm-hmm.
and the stakes in the end are life or death in a significant way, but the
Yeah.
majority of the story doesn't feel that way, but they're
Yeah.
significant to them. So
Mm-hmm.
helping you to figure out like what that looks like, and how do you bring that to the page, and how do you use that to progress the story, while allowing the characters to transform and sort of lead the as we are navigating the story, is so
Yeah.
important. One of the things that I put is that this is a fantastical tale of womanhood, marriage, economics, politics, and personal sacrifice through
Yeah.
three women. And that this is like a unifying story. And it is. It's almost like you see this a lot in African American romances, that you have your three friend groups, and you see this a lot in romance. It's like three
Yeah.
women on this journey, sisterhood, and you see it here, and the way that it's sort of woven in,
Mm-hmm.
along with the magic and the circumstances, is just beautifully done, while sprinkling in the other characters that fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I think about those sort of like, when we talk about like universal fantasies, right? When we talk about romance, and the fact that, what this gets at is that craving to belong, and that craving
Mm,
to forge deep relationships, and the fact that even though this is not like a romance, right? There's a thread of marriage and love and family going through it, but we're just not talking like a classic romance, where you will often see those things, right? We've got our friend group, we've got our love interests, we've got our, family, and all of those dynamics at play. She nested those into this story, so that she's still getting to that aspect of it, right? Like I
mhm.
think about like, again, Miriam has this family that at first we're a little bit like,
What's
oh,
going
you
on?
you need to get it together, Dad. I don't know what you got going on, but I don't care for
Listen.
it. But then it's sort of like when Miriam steps up and the family begins to be capable again of falling into its rhythm and its way of being, and it becomes this real place of tenderness. And then for Wanda, who hasn't known that, to begin to experience that,
Mhm.
what happens is again, it gets to that universal fantasy, right? Of we so crave to have places where we belong, whether that's our
Belong.
own families, or if we're alienated from families, to have someone who takes us in, right? Who will be that and do that and share that with us. And she's doing that in this story, right, where then like, and then Miriam and Wanda begin to have a connection, and Wanda is able to have a connection with her brothers. And even, right, Miriam begins to find like her own sort of place in between the worlds and all of this. But it makes me think of those universal fantasies, right, of belonging and finding your place and having people that you can count on and who look for you and who care for you. And seeing that element at work, as well as I think the romantic subplot is more wonderful than you initially would think from the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like in the beginning, you're like, okay, like, you know, you're not 100% sure like where it's going, and there's their interaction, there's not even a whole lot of interaction there initially, but as we get through the story and it begins to grow and build, it becomes like, for me,
Girl,
I
was like, this dude, he's baby.
Yes.
I don't want to give nothing away, because if I say something, I'll give away. But yes, I was just like, listen, dude. Please.
And then, like, right when our understanding begins to shift and it begins to develop, all of a sudden there's this kind of point in the story where then you start to see like, oh, this is nice. This is sweet. And let me tell you, when that man calls her lady, but like not like, because like Dana and I, we say lady, right? We're like, oh, lady, listen. When he says it, it's like, why is this hot? Okay, like, hello. And it's so good. And so it's what I love is the surprise of how wonderful that thread of the story actually ends up being, where it doesn't feel like there's maybe like a lot in it, and the way that she manages to develop it and again surprise us. We think that everything is one thing in the beginning of the story, and by the end we realize that like we were completely wrong about what, like, the nature of the world and the problems in it, which is like, oh man, what a great way to turn us upside down and make us thank you for it, you know?
And to also do something that in an environment where you feel like you know what to expect, to do something that is still unexpected. Because another thing that I noticed was you could quickly just be like, oh, don't get married, run off, or whatever. But that just wasn't the nature of that time. That's not very realistic. And so it's like, how do they deal with the circumstances that they find themselves in, and also attain some sort of agency? Right. We talk about this in the future episodes about how bargaining is such a huge part of this story experience of like, what would it cost? I think it was the quote from Morena's dad of like, nothing comes without a price. And it becomes this sort of bargaining of like, what are you willing to pay? And for each of them, it turns out to be something different, but it has the same or similar meaning. Of like, what does it mean to like to show up and to be whole in your own skin and have your voice, and not just have things happening to you, but you just like, you know, Miriam standing up and just like, I'm scared, but you know what? I'm about to say something. Like, what do I get out of this? When she did that first time, I was like, wait a minute.
Are you sure? Are you sure that's what you want? Okay. All right. I'll just.
She wasn't even sure, but it was going down either way. And so I truly, truly enjoyed this story. And I find that every time you give me a story, I'm just like, okay, what do Rachel have me reading? Now, this one wasn't that for long at all. I felt like I really, really enjoyed it. And I can understand why it's something that you choose to go back to, and that it's one of those stories that you will find that you probably will read over and over again to really juice all of the goodness out of it. And so as we sort of like sort of start wrapping up the call, I would ask, like, maybe what are a couple things that you think are sort of that you think can help the reader with experiencing the next few episodes from the lens of who we talk to, which is writers wanting to write better stories?
Yeah, you know, I think One of the things to just sort of know going into it is recognizing Naomi Novik as a very established author, right? And I think that just kind of helps frame the fact that like this story is what it is for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is not her first rodeo. She had already made a smash debut in a completely different iteration of fantasy. So it was still historical fantasy, but it was more like epic fantasy. This is the one where I talked about it's the Napoleonic Wars, but with dragons. And so she was already, and she like that was a series. So she had written multiple books already and made a name for herself, had established readership, and then made a pivot with a fairy tale retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And then this is the work that follows that. They're not related to each other. It's just she did that and then she did this story. And again, it was just like a pivot of doing something different in her career, in her genre. And the reason that matters is because number one, this book is exquisitely written, right? I mean, it's so beautifully done. And it's also, we've got a boatload of POVs. We got a boatload of stuff going on. And some of those things, like in the future episodes, we're going to talk about like, ooh, if I were you, listener, I would be super careful here. Okay. Like, because again, this is that thing. And we talked about this with Kennedy Ryan, right? Where it's like, when you have an established reputation and readers know that they can trust you, there's more stuff you can get away with. You can do more stuff and kind of like push the boat out or try something that's like, ooh, I'm going to zig when they think I'm going to zag. And I'm going to do a little bit of that, because they already know you and they trust you. So they'll go with you. When you're new to the game, it could work. It's less likely to work for you than someone that people know. And that's going to be true if you're self-pub. That's going to be true if you're looking for an agent, right? Where like agents want to know, can I trust this debut? The same way that's what readers are looking for in a book. And so just recognizing that in terms of like when you look at the story and you're like, holy cow, this is a hell of a story, that she has a lot of books under her belt by this point. And also what we talk about when we're like, ooh, if it were me, I would maybe suggest something slightly different, so that right where those kind of lines are, right? Which is why we highlight the really key takeaways of like, these are the things that like she does really, really well that we recommend like really boiling down into, right? POVs and themes and the stakes, the way that you escalate them and make them personal, and develop your characters. And those are like, those are sort of like your safe takeaways, so to speak. And just to recognize what happens when you're looking at an established author versus an author's debut, right? And what's in that, or in their first couple of books. And I think that just helps, right? When you show up to this book and you're like, oh, okay, like we're looking at someone who's making a career, who's making a career pivot with this book. And that can just kind of help when you're thinking about the conversation that we're having and what you read when you read the book.
The one thing that I will add to that is that I say this several times, like you can write what you want to write. It's your book. But what I, as a coach, am always advocating for is that when you make a decision, that you're making an educated decision, that you're making an intentional choice. Yeah. Here, for example, just because it's an easy grab, you're having multiple points of view. Yeah, the 3 we're rocking with. Some of the extra ones we're like, ooh, don't do that on your first time out. Right. Yeah. And so it doesn't mean don't ever do it. No, but it just it says that if you decide to do it, know that you're taking a risk. Make it a calculated risk. You know, is there something very unique about this? Is the reason why she chose 3 point of views instead of 1, right? What are the things that we get from those other point of views that we wouldn't have received from just the 1, as an example? So that's what I would be advocating for more than anything, of like, when you decide to make these other decisions that may be a little off from the norm, or it may be, something you just have, in your gut that you want to do, still make it something that you're making as an educated, calculated risk, and you're understanding why that is. And in several of the episodes, we sort of give you some of the questions to start considering, especially around this, because it is such a departure from some of the norm that you would see. And so I think that is a great thing. And I think another thing that sort of rises to the top is the transformation that these three characters go through, and how she's able to bring that to the page in a very unique way for each one of them, and we get to experience that. And so get ready for that, whether you're reading it or listening to this discussion through our eyes of talking about it, that I think it's a great way, whether you are aiming for fantasy or any genre, because it's all about like, how do you make your characters relatable? How do you make them, potential characters that could be unlikable, still be empathetic, that you hook your readers to staying and going on this journey with these characters. And we talk about that as well. Is there anything else that you feel like from the standpoint of an overview, because we could rehash everything, but that's not necessary, but that you feel like rises to the top that you want to bring to the table before we close out this overview?
Yeah, I just want to make a super quick note of, if you're reading this, to pay attention to the plot that the plot structure that she uses. This is not quite the turn of phrase I'm looking for, but for expedience, it's the one I'm going with. So one of the things that we're always talking about is you set the expectations in your first act, and you establish what is the question we are going on a journey to answer in this story. And at the climax, we want that answer, right? So that they are connected to each other, and we are reading the story. And the whole time we know what it is about. We know what we are doing. We know why we are doing it. We're going from point A to point B, and we can see that clear line between them. But if you're reading this story, pay attention to how she lets the plot evolve seamlessly without us feeling like, feeling like the story changed out from under us without us noticing. And I just wanted to mention this because Mistborn, right? We talked about Mistborn at the beginning of the year, and that's like a great clear-cut example, right? Where at the beginning, we know the Lord Ruler is the problem that we're facing, and by the end, we know whether or not we solved the Lord Ruler problem. It's very clear, inciting incident to climax. This story is a great example of a story where we don't actually understand what the problem is. We think we do, but we don't actually know. And the course of the story actually unravels what that problem really is. And then we face down that problem without ever feeling. So it's a plot twist, not a bait and switch of like, this is a different story. Hey. And so paying attention to the fact that in the beginning of the story, we know what the problem is. And we know basically what the problem is, and we think that it's sort of the solution or the core of the problem is one thing. And then as the story moves, we realize that we didn't actually understand the problem, and more of the truth of the problem gets unraveled. And as that happens, then it becomes clear what needs to happen at the climax in order to solve it. And it's two different, they're both still following the setup payoff rule, right? The raise the question, answer the question. The one with Mistborn, it's like very clear. And this is a great example of when your protagonist is wrong about the nature of the problem. And that's part of the story, is uncovering it. So that's a great thing to keep an eye out for. And I just wanted to have the opportunity to provide a counterexample to sort of clarify what I mean when I talk about that from one of the books that we've already done. So that's another thing to just keep a good eye out for, because it's really well done.
I'm going to say the last thing, and this is really honestly for Dana. I might be totally selfish, but the thing that hit me when you have a story like this that has a romantic subplot is the suspense of not knowing if I'm going to get a happily ever after. Oh, y'all, it kills me. It kills me because I'm holding my breath, and every time it looked like it could be a good thing, I'm about to die because it turned out to be something else. And so I'm not going to say whether you get it or not. Just know, if you are one of my, romance readers like me, just know you're going to be holding on to the book. You're going to be holding on to the book. And oh my gosh, I was like, this sucks. Like, Like,
I hate not knowing.
Listen, you kind of forget how much you rely on that. And here, oh my gosh. So I'm just letting y'all know. Don't say I didn't warn you. You have been warned.
This is that moment, right? So like when we do steamy romances, or right, like when we did Twisted Love, right, where I was like, all right, if you're coming in here and you like came from my audience and you are not a typical romance reader, I just need you to know, buckle up, okay? Because it's going to get real wild and you're not ready for what's about to happen. I'm trying to make you ready. There's nothing I can do that's going to make you ready. This is Dana's version for people coming from her audience and her romance readers and writers that are like, listen, I need to tell you, this is not a romance. We don't have any promises and you don't know. And it's not comfortable and we don't let, and you just need to know that you're not going to know.
And you see the potential. You see the potential. It's right there. But it's like, she's just like, sit back and watch me work. I'm like, I don't want to watch you work. I want you to give me my HEA.
I want assurances, ma'am.
Now, please and thank you. Please and thank you. So, with that said, get ready, buckle up. You have 3 more episodes ahead of you. Next week, we'll be covering the plot, and get ready. It's a good one. It's a good one. It's a meaty one. And over the next 3 weeks, we'll be looking at the plot and the characters and have our editor's takes towards the end. So just go ahead, get ready. If you haven't done so already, you have time to read the book. And the narration for audiobook is phenomenal. It's a good one.
So good.
It's a good one. You're welcome. This is why we're going to say you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking forward to you being on this journey with us. If you haven't done so already, visit us online at storydeepdive.com. You can find out more about us and both of our editing businesses and book coaching businesses. You also can find out where to find us, whether you are listening to us on podcasts or you can check us out on YouTube. Hey, and watch the shenanigans of our faces and Rachel doing her Vanna White act. Okay, you can see all of that. Right? And all of that on YouTube, on the YouTubes. Okay. And so with that said, we will see you all same place, same time next week. Take care. And as always, happy writing. Goodbye.